What is up, down, and sideways, all you truly beautiful individuals? It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys, and if you've been frothing at the mouth saying, where are my games? It's been like over 3 weeks since the World Championship. You don't need to worry anymore because we are just a few days away from the now annual Red Bull League of Their Own event kicking off with the familiar faces running around. T1, Carmine Corp, G2, Las Ratones, and the no-name organization with No Way. And this is, again, always a great bridge to have a for-fun event before or in between the off-season and going to that split kickoff in 2026.
It's a massive shift in the energy, the momentum that is going on between the events, moving from the pressure and the achievement that is winning a world championship to the Red Bull League of Their Own event. It absolutely is a bit of a switch up, but still, as you said, the annual now. This is very much so an event that has returned and has returned for a good reason, because people are hungry to get these games, get an early sprinkling and look at how teams can stack up depending, LEC, the lower tier regions within Europe against T1, that dominant dynasty that is, again, a repeating world champion.
And there's obviously always the pros and cons, the hype and the disappointment for even for fun events like this. There's a kind of added wrinkle heading into this one because we do have the LEC versus split coming, where you have Las Ratones and Carmine Corp Blue, who will actually be playing against meaningful games and the LEC squads. And I mean, first and foremost, Carmine Corp is sending only 2 actual starters. That's Kaliste and Yike. Yakino's going to be a sub jungler coming in, and then it's other KC Blue guys. And I understand, because all the import players, that's 3 of them when you're talking about Kiahu, Kana, and Busio, and Ace Great. There's no way they're in Berlin this early, so I understand them not having the full lineup for this event.
It would have been a perfect scenario if you were able to get that full lineup in one of these situations, but understanding, again, when you are talking about players that are having to shift their entire lives for whether a year or longer type of situation to a new place, that's absolutely going to be a bigger task, and one that's going to have a lot more details going on inside it. You can understand why this would be a little bit too rushed, a little bit too soon to get that full lineup out there. I still can understand some disappointments from some of the fans when you are looking at that. But I will say, getting Kaliste, having Yike, those are 2 very important members of what will be what drives this KC team. So having them there and getting them this experience, this exposure at the event is still a win for me.
The bigger no-no and why is the scheduling for this one. And I get it's just a single day event, so you're just jam-packed from start to finish for like 5 hours, but I feel like you could have figured out the format a little bit better, because you're getting the no-name org, No Way, and the boys. They're matching up against both G2 and T1. Okay, yeah, great for them. You have G2 versus Carmine Corp. That's fun, actual LEC matchup, but only the winner of that head-to-head will get an opportunity to play against T1, which means one of G2 or KC don't even get to play the defending world champs.
Yeah, it's a tough balancing act, right? It's that tightrope that you're trying to walk at this event to keep it, brief, short, a simple little sampling size type of thing, nothing that is a mega commitment type of situation from any of these organizations, but especially T1 as that featured team that is being brought out as those champions, as the dynasty that has been built up, as that top option. You have to find a way for it, and getting, exposure, experience for lower tiers, teams like NWO, that's great. That is what this event really does bring forth, and it's one of the positives of it. But at the cost of having a G2 and a KC matchup against T1, where it is instead that winner is the only one between G2 and KC that is going to get to face off against T1. That is a disappointment, I think, for a lot of the fans, and a lot of the reasons why people want to tune in, want to see some of the action from this event.
And even Las Ratones only playing a single match. It's at least against T1, but at the very end of the day, you would have liked to see them go against KC or G2, who, again, they're going to be playing against multiple times in this first split of LEC action in 2026. Seems crazy to, I mean, I guess it's not traveling all the way to Berlin, but going there for this just for a single match. And I think I can guarantee you this time, Reckless will not be subbing into play for T1, as we're expecting Peyz to be making his debut with the team.
Which that again is going to be part of that excitement for this event. No matter how much for fun, whatever, doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Getting to see this early look at Peyz for however much it's worth, that's worth it to, I think, a lot of people to get to see that type of early look, especially given how significant a change this is as far as just the optics of it go. I think actual talent and gameplay we'll see is at a comparable level, knowing what Peyz, I think, on the most optimistic side can bring to T1, but still on paper, on the record book and achievements, it absolutely is a big shift. So getting this early look at it, even against what the talent level will be at this event and the focus and preparation for this event, you're still wanting to see that from T1 and from Peyz specifically.
And what is sure to be, or going to be, the penultimate tournament for Las Ratones, unless they qualify for first stand, you never know. I'm expecting at least 1 to 2 Scion solo kills for Baus, because this is Fearless Draft, but all the matches are best of 1, so right.
Yeah, I don't understand what we're messing around with even throwing the Fearless label out there when it doesn't really add up. I know previous times we've had Fearless involved in this event, but it really was only Fearless for T1. They were the only ones dealing with the constraints.
That's hard mode Fearless is what they had last year too, let me tell you.
Yeah, so certainly going to be different as far as what we're expecting to see champions being picked and what can be utilized. And yes, unless anyone is playing the no fun, really try hard situation where you are banning out that Scion targeting ban on the Baus, I do expect to see that in a little bit of that solo bolo trading type of action.
Yeah, and it remains to be seen whether every game there'll be some role swapping going on for T1, but for sure at least one match we're going to get some kind of role swapping going on.
And that's usually a little bit of extra fun, and especially, right, any team doing it, that is always a novelty. It's a trick type of thing that it's fun to watch. But with T1 and the stories that you can create by having these guys play the different roles, play the different champions, and get to see just how special they are and what skill set they can bring, that is going to be a fun little side note to keep track of here during this Red Bull League of Their Own event.
And despite all the criticism, the timing for this event, everybody is so ravenous for any type of gameplay, it doesn't really matter. This will be a little oasis in the desert that is the off season heading into 2026. We're also always ravenous for off rift drama, and whenever there's a big bow out or maybe disappointing end to the World Championship, we're treated to teams for the content, have the behind the scenes for it all, and FlyQuest was the latest one that we saw an inside look to how scrims went at the World Championship. Obviously, we know they had the easiest possible. I don't think you could have drawn up an easier draw for them through the World Championship, and we're seeing what went wrong, and there were a lot of things. And first and foremost, I think you can say the team mentality was boom from the get-go for this World Championship.
Yeah, I'll be fair and say that I don't think it was the easiest, road to it by any means, because there still were speed bumps. These still were difficult squads that you were having to go up against and showcase yourself. But what people believed you could show and be able to perform at is a different factor. And when you're talking about how things did play out for them, I think if Inspired was staying with FlyQuest, I think we wouldn't be seeing quite as many clips as we are getting in this one, and the insights that we are getting, the backstage type of look. Because I think this is absolutely an avenue where you can take it and you can look at this, and you can look at how things did end up playing out, the reactions from this, and make a not so positive type of conclusion on a player like Inspired, despite the skill, despite that drive that he brings to an organization. I think there was a lot of moments in this where you could say that you'd like a little bit more maturity, a little bit more awareness. And I understand that maturity, awareness, these are rare commodities in any type of competitive environment for young people. But I think this is still one of those ones, and Inspired has been around long enough and been in important positions enough that you could say you have to have learned a couple of these lessons where you can get across your frustration, your anger, your, insights on what is wrong and how to improve it and what to do better without that side serving of the toxic salad, of the attitude, of the distaste and whatever that leads people to not be as open to those suggestions or, whatever type of situation. Again, you're going to catch more flies, and I don't know why you're catching flies, but if you're going to catch more flies with honey than with vinegar type of situation, and I think no matter how frustrated, how driven you are as a main player and in an important situation like Worlds, you have to find a way to keep that mental balance.
And I get it. This is the highest pressure moment of the entire season. You've built up every split to get to this point. He's a guy who just wants to win. First and foremost, doesn't care how he gets there. And, lots of people have kind of talked on this. A guy like, I've seen Double Lift talk about it. He's a guy who loves the blunt approach to teammates, just telling it how it is. And I understand that it can be worse to have stuff stewing beneath the surface where no one's really saying what they actually mean. But there's a difference between doing that and referring to your teammates as NPCs, not even saying, Masu, you're playing like an NPC, but saying the team is playing like NPCs in the third person when they're all around the room feels extra disrespectful. And even calling the coaching staff, saying he kind of has to step up and do their stuff. Basically, everyone has a problem but me that I have to fix. That's not going to inspire your teammates to want to improve or work with you to make the team better. That environment is just a recipe for disaster, and we saw that disaster play out.
I know that wasn't intentional, but I'm calling it right now. That's the word pun play of the off season, right there. One of those lines. But it's crazy because again, this is someone that should have enough maturity, enough experience at this time to be able to recognize no matter your frustration, no matter your skill set and gap and whatever in these type of ones, you're not gonna get the reaction you're hoping for. And despite, yes, I can see that angle of being blunt, getting to the point, and sometimes you don't need that fluff. You don't need the kitty gloves type of situation. You can be more direct on this one. But again, lines like you're playing like an NPC, these type of ones, it just clearly shows that you don't have the maturity, awareness to have that perspective that other people are living their lives too, right? It's not like they're just, again, NPCs, computers doing the thing and, computer made an error, there's a whoopsie. There are people that are trying, have emotions attached to all these type of ones. And again, that type of response, these type of interactions, no matter right or wrong situation, it's going to lead to worse performances down the line more times than not. And it clearly did with this FlyQuest team imploding at the World Championship.
And there were multiple examples of this throughout that behind-the-scenes documentary. We'd seen it last year. There was the whole Jensen thing with him. This is even more so than maturity. It's just an example of lack of leadership skills, right? This is the guy who, in-game, is no question the leader. He's the main communicator and knows how to play the game, and nobody is questioning the game knowledge and individual skill that this guy has. He's won MVPs in 2 different leagues. He's got 4 titles in the LCS. Nobody is debating that. He's legitimately in the conversation as best Western jungler, one of the best Western players of all time. And even DeMonte was another guy who used to be the player development coach for FlyQuest, talking about working with Inspired and praising how amazing a player he is. But his ceiling isn't even reached because he didn't see these leadership qualities from him. Instead of flaming his teammates, if he was able to prop them up, and that's what he described he does at the start of the year. He actually loved working with rookies, young players like Masu and Busio, seeing that growth early on. But as soon as he loses his trust, can't believe in his teammates, doesn't think that they can win with this squad, that's when you get all these comments and he shuts down. So that's leadership traits that I think Inspired can work on.
And yeah, and you can see that there are individuals within traditional sports, esports, where that type of attitude, that type of edge to you as a character can be an advantage, can be something in your corner. But there's a lot of times where it isn't. It has to be the right scenario, the right situation, the right surrounding cast for that to be taken well. And that's never appeared for Inspired. And I think, again, the point in his career, the skill set that you have, the question is, why don't you just take that one little step forward as an individual outside the Rift for that leadership capabilities, for that ability to be a better teammate? And that will probably translate onto the Rift. And I understand that that's not a guarantee or an instant transfer. And for someone that is as motivated and as highly driven like Inspired, that's a hard sell. So I get why this has been difficult, but it's one of those ones where, as you said, DeMonte talked about it. In order to hit that ultimate peak, that top potential that he has, which we've already seen what the higher ends of this potential is, and it's pretty darn skilled, is taking that next step forward as a leader, as a better teammate. And I think that is absolutely going to be one of the challenges, one of the factors that we will be watching over him heading into this year with Leon Gaming.
And I mean, truthfully, you know, we heard, why didn't he go to Team Liquid? There was maybe not a culture fit, different things perhaps make sense in hindsight. I mean, Jose Diota was basically the complete opposite, good vibes kind of teammate to Inspired. But now you look at this Leon Gaming roster and you're going, okay, he has that young talent in Zamudu coming in that he can help. Isles is kind of a veteran, but still doesn't have that much experience. But you can see the same path happening later in the year. There might be a great start. Maybe they even win a split on this squad. But when the communication breaks down and maybe he's not on the same page with guys like Saint and Berserker, how do they respond to some blunt criticism? And this will be a test, an opportunity for him that if you want to be a good leader, you can't just have the same leadership style with every player. And I think there's been guys like Impact and Core JJ who have kind of talked about this, where you have to deal with players differently depending on their personality. And this is going to be an opportunity for Inspired to do that.
A completely underrated aspect when we are talking about players, about roster construction, is that personality side. And again, understanding these are young men. These are very guys that are going to be going through all sorts of different, emotions and levels of response to it and everything else.
And super impressionable from a guy like Inspired, who's an MVP.
And under a lot of pressure in these type of situations. Yep. So yes, you can have things like this happen. But I think, again, when you are looking at this one from the Leon Gaming perspective, you are hoping for those lessons learned from last year on the individual side with Inspired. And then I think as an organization, you should be responsible and understand what's going on, especially after this documentary that's come out and seen this about it, to be able to identify, to be proactive on steps like this if you are identifying a situation happening. Because, again, this is one of those ones where you saw it at the World Championship for FlyQuest. Could happen any moment. That is absolutely a team sinker. That is battleship game over when that type of attitude, that type of toxicity creeps into the interactions with your teammates. It is not an environment where you are going to find success 99 times out of 100.
And there could be something said to FlyQuest kind of dumpstering their way through the LTA in splits 2 and 3. No shot Leon Gaming's going to be doing that. There's going to be some contesting. I think it's a more balanced league as a whole when you look at these rosters. So maybe having that growth or needing to show that growth domestically before dominating and then going international and going, oh man, these teams are a lot better, and things go crashing down real quick.
It's easy to be the best teammate when things are all going right? When you're always winning, it's all happy times, it's all smiles, back down, high fives, everything like that. When you are losing, when there is adversity, when it is a struggle, it's a challenge, mistakes, that is where you see that true character, and that is where those strengthened bonds that are built type of situation. And again, as you mentioned out with FlyQuest, the dominance, the challenge that they didn't have within the LCS LTA, it's understandable that that wasn't going to be an area where you're experienced or practiced or whatever. It still is a disappointment to see that come through and see it as as much of a whirlwind force as it was to that team during the World Championship.
Let's jump to some happy, positive off-season action. And that's the LPL having their fun little All-Star Snowdown Showdown, some kind of alliteration combo where they vote on their All-Star teams and the most popular player. And for the 6th time, the Shy is voted the most popular player. There's a reason that this guy's fandom is absolutely insane. Fanatics for a reason, even though he was far and away definitely not the best top laner in the LPL this year.
This is very much so not the performance-based voting situation over in the LPL. This is fans. This is vote with your heart. Vote for who you want to see out there in those situations. And yes, 6th time, you're getting the Shy back up there. I think that he is, outside of just the fan vote part of it, he's arguably my top pick to go to an event like this, because nobody shows up to an event like this and can play the wacky champions, the stupid one-offs, the Teemos and everything else, and still bring that fun gameplay and skill set to the Rift. You always love to see the Shy do that. He is built for an event like this, and I'm happy to see him get there. And he's not going to be the only one of the IG members hitting the Rift for the what is it, Snowflake, Snowball, Smashdown, whatever the heck it's called.
Yeah, both sound good there. But yeah, they had their first and second All-Star teams, and yeah, the first squad you had the Shy Tarzan, his buddy Rookie, Jackie Love, and Kael in its support, which, by the way, is 3 Koreans, first and foremost. But even when you look at the second team, Flandre, JJ, Shanks, Gala, and Mako, you're going, well, there's no BLG members on any of these squads. And I think the LPL fans always kind of are harsh on BLG, but might be a little extra salty after them not making top 8 at Worlds.
I'll say this is even more of an indication that this is a fan vote than the Shy getting on through in the top side is no representation for BLG in that regard. Yeah, and not to say that, I'd go out on my own and really fight to get some BLG members in there, but there absolutely are arguments to be made to have a BLG member, at least one of the
Knight not being here is,
I was going to say, out of all of them, Knight surely has to have some type of argument in case that he could deserve to be at an event like this. But not in the eyes of the fans of the LPL, because it is very much so a message, a dissatisfaction, X in the column of the survey review saying no BLG go into this one.
This is as big a silent protest as you can give as the fandom. And does make me miss a little bit the old All-Star events, even that the LCS had, where it was Doublelift and Bjergsen getting voted in every single year, pretty much regardless of what their actual on-Rift performance was. But alas, that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Absolute Stunners, thanks for hanging out as always, and we will catch you on that flippity flip.